ladies. I want to tell you about a very special event that I'm holding this October. It's my live virtual event called Ignite Your Life, and I really want you to attend. This 3-day virtual experience is designed for smart, successful women just like you so that you can become your authentically beautiful self. You'll learn how to attract a high-quality man and propel you forward on the right path to love. This event is taking place October 14th through the 16th, and it will be the only event of its kind this year. I want you to join us and a whole community of really successful women for this transformative 3-day event where you're going to learn the unique process that will help you attract an amazing man who is completely enchanted by you. I'm also giving you a special gift because you're part of our amazing and supportive podcast community. For the first 50 women who sign up to go to Ignite Your Life from our podcast community, I'm giving you $20 off the ticket price. So to access this discount, use a promo code by typing the word IGNITE at checkout. You'll save your spot for just $77, but you must act quickly because these spots are filling up fast. So to register, go to IYLVIP.com or find the link in our show notes. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Battista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Tessa Alburn. The real reasons you put off responding to his text and why it really is a thing. Ladies, oh my goodness. Oh, wow. We are here with the one and the only, my soul sister, Tessa Alburn. I'm so excited for you to hear and listen and get to know Tessa. She is a master coach at the Institute for Living Courageously. She has been our director of content. She has co-facilitated with me so many times over the last 10 years. She's a certified coach, an NLP practitioner. She has advanced training in spiritual energy work and somatics. Before working with us, and this is where we met, Tessa was the graduate department director and a facilitator trainer for the Hoffman Institute. And she has also been working with us in the YCL, Your Courageous Life VIP program, where she coaches our clients on creating an entire life beyond their wildest dreams. She helps them with their career, leadership, helps people branch off from one career into starting a business. She is a compassionate coach with extraordinary instincts. And she is so able to recognize all our clients' blocks and help them really manifest their desires so that they can break free from past failures and embrace their authenticity to create a life that matches that. And I'm so happy that you're here.
Oh my goodness, I'm happy to be here too. And what a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much for all of that.
Well, let me ask you this, Tessa, because, Tessa and I, what's really great about what you're going to hear today is that Tessa, and I started this little journey, with a deep understanding of having shared sort of a similar journey in the work that we did, but also really seeing where the gaps were, right? And what really was needed in this space to help people create lasting, sustainable change so that they get results, so that their life literally looks different in a short period of time. And I just was curious, now that we've been doing this together for over a decade, why do you think that the women that we work with come to us? Like, why do you think that they see that we're going to be their last stop? That's question number one. And number two is, what do you think is the core change they make that allows them to start to really create that life of meaning, and including love, career, business, whatever it is they want?
That's a great question. I think most of the ladies are very, very smart. They're well-educated, or they've made their way in the world in a way that had to educate them as they went. They're very successful. and they have they've reached a certain level in life, and they are really mostly they're saying, what the heck is going on? I'm so successful everywhere else, but I just can't figure out this thing with the guys. Like, what's going on? And they start to have an awareness that maybe it's something they're doing, but they don't have the information. They can't figure it out. And they know that something needs to change, and they're just like, who can tell me? They just want the answers,
Yeah.
Right. And I think that in terms of your question around the core change is, it's not a simple answer, but it would contain elements of them understanding what is their essential self, like their soul, right? And how that expresses in the world. And also, what is it that they're actually putting out into the world energetically? That's a big missing piece for them, because they know how to operate really, really well, right? They know how to lead teams maybe, or be on teams. They have successful careers. They can communicate pretty well, but they're missing a lot of pieces around how to communicate from their true self, from that part of them that wants to be loved in a way that doesn't appear. It's that they've got like this underlying, why is it? What's wrong with me? I know there's nothing wrong, but yet it seems like there's something wrong, right? It's a big conflict, and they don't know why that's happening. So they come to us for that clarity and to understand it, and then also to get the tools and have the resources and make that are going to help them make that inner change, because it doesn't just happen up in your head. And they'd love it if it did, right? If we could just, we've always said, right? If we could just have that peace and say, this is it, right? We would have been like way off doing something else, maybe going to the moon. I don't know. But, with our gazillion dollars. So it takes that practice of, first of all, learning what has to shift, and then getting the essential self expressed in the world in a way that can be received, in a way that's heard, in a way that isn't like just false positivity. And I think that's another element of what we see. Like, our ladies are well behaved for the most part. I mean, yes, some of them know they have a bitchy side,
right?
But they're really able to contain things. And they're grateful. We've talked about this a lot. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, I have a great life. It's wonderful. Right. I'm really grateful for all that I have. But there's a disconnect between the true gratitude and the gratitude that's in their minds, because they're still frustrated and they don't know what to do with that energy. And I think that's what we help them. That's a big piece of the gap that we help them cross.
Oh my God. You said like 174 amazing things. I think people could like rewind that section and be like, that's me. Wait, no, that was me too. That's me too. I want to start this off by this understanding of what is their essential self. That's a very core piece of what we talk about on our campus, is how do you get rid of the blocks and the patterns and the beliefs that are holding you back to get to the core of who you are. Some people would call it like your authentic self, but we call it your essential self. Can you explain like what that is, and why is it important that we understand who we are really?
Okay, sure. I would love to talk about the essential self, because, we come into this world essentially pure and innocent and ready for, like, we're already in a love experience as a baby when we just arrive in this world. We're ready to be loved. We're ready to give love. That's why people, you'll see them just, goo goo gaga over themselves when there's a baby around, because it's about the love and the innocence and that purity. And it has to do with the soul that's come in with that being. And it's so beautiful, right? It hasn't been programmed. It hasn't been ruined for the most part, right? And it hasn't had to protect itself a lot, because it's been pretty safe inside this wonderful, cozy little place for 9-ish months. And that soul is just like ready. It wants to know everything about the world. And it is the essential self that's coming in and wants to fulfill something. It wants to give. It wants to share. It wants to love. And then there's the programming and what's going on. Like, I'm getting yelled at. There must be something wrong with me. And all these patterns start to develop at very early ages. And by the time, we're 12, 13 years old, it's kind of set in. It's pretty set in terms of who we think we're supposed to be in the world. And we've been usually conditioned, not by anybody's, most people aren't intentional, like parents aren't intentional about like making an essential self go away, but because of their own patterns, because of their own needs or their own unfulfillments, they give a lot of mixed signals. And so we're trying to sort all that out. By the time we're 12 or 13, we're very confused. Right. And we've developed, right, like this armor around us. And so then we're in sort of this paradigm of just really strong, like there definitely is something wrong with me. I don't know what to do about it. We could get mad about it, or we could feel helpless about it. So we start to live this out in our lives, in our jobs, in our relationships, whatever it is. And what I love about the essential self is because it is connected to the soul. It's an energy, right? That's part of the universe. It's part of the love of the universe. And it knows that there's something better. And so we're constantly driven, right, to find out, well, who am I? What is my soul? What is my purpose? And I think that's important to acknowledge, because that is saying there is something more. And you don't have to die to have that connection. You can literally connect now in this lifetime and bring that part of you forward. And I think that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the essential self.
I think this is really an important piece, because I think the word like authenticity gets thrown around. And what we like to talk about and what is important is that next deeper level, right? Which is really, if you think of that word essence, it's like, this is the essence of really who you are at your very deepest core without the patterning. And I think it's remembering that that is there. And that when we talk about, if you hear in self-help or personal development, peeling back the layers of the onion, right? Like that there's all these layers. It's all those things that are these blocks or entanglements or knots, we call them on our campus, but like that are keeping you from really being who you are at your essential self and then expressing that in the world. So the next question for you is, when you look at why does that energy of our soul, of our essential self matter in living a meaningful life, of attracting the right partner, of being a powerful leader, of creating impact in all your relationships, your career? Like, why does that matter to people? Why should we care about that?
Why should we care about that? Well, I don't think we have to. And clearly there are people that don't care.
Right.
Right. But when we care, when we own that it matters to us, that's when we really come into a fullness of life and our energy is freed up. I think we can have a greater experience of personal freedom and also connection with others and connection with the divine, connection with the universe. And there's a flow to life. And I truly believe there's like just this current of love that we ride on and we can express, and we can create more of that in the world when we are conscious of this possibility and we're living into it. We're leaning into it, as we say, and we're choosing to follow that path, that part of us, because we could hang out here in our lives and just like get along,
right.
Do this, do that. Yeah. Achieve a little of this.
Yep.
Have a nice house or whatever it is. But we know, and, books have been written on this for thousands of years, like just the purpose that when we know we're in our purpose in life, we have such deep gratification. deep fulfillment, deep satisfaction, knowing, yes, like I'm happy because I'm me and I'm bringing forward this purpose, this greatness in me to the best of my ability. I'm not just being the small me. I'm being like connected and living into all the possibility that I could possibly do here on earth. And it's just it's bliss.
It is bliss. It's funny if you like hear the way your voice and your tone even changes. You got to the energy of being in a fulfilled place of a full expression. Like that's what we want our life to feel like and to be like. And I think what's really important for those who are listening is like, yes, you want the guy. Yes, you want that new career, or you want that promotion, or you wish you could, do whatever it is. What's really important is understanding the connection between that desire and your essential self and the energy behind that. Because what happens, I think, is that our fears and the patterns and the stories we believe about what's possible and not possible just override essential self. And so then we just end up staying on autopilot. So, and you work with like so many of our clients in groups, one-on-one, you are like, in the field. So I love asking you, like, when you think about what are some of the stories or limitations that people make up, right? About what they can and can't have, or what they're afraid to say or do. What are some of those things?
There are so many things that they think they can have or can't have based on just purely limitation. And so it might be, I can have a certain kind of a guy, and that's who's going to want me or not want me. And at the same time, I'm wanting a different kind of a guy. And so that creates a disconnect a lot of the time because they don't really want to settle for the thing that they think they can have.
Right.
Or somebody's not, right? Like somebody's not going to like me because of how I look, my nose or my eyes or my hair, or I'm too short or I'm too tall or I'm too big or I'm too little or don't have breasts, or they're too much, or I have this identity that I'm like a sex pot and nobody really sees the real me. So they have all these limiting factors, what we would term as a limiting belief, that are literally constraining what they can take in and receive. So even if the person who was a soul match for them standing right in front of them, they might not get it or let that happen because they're in the limiting beliefs. They're like, no, that's too good for me. That could never work. It's never going to last. It's going to leave me. What if, what if I get hurt? So there are all these beliefs around getting hurt and being damaged. And they don't want to have to go through that again. They feel like they're not going to be resilient. They don't really understand what resiliency is. They might want it, but they're so scared of being hurt. And then they're going to have to pick themselves back up off the floor, it's going to take 3 years if I get hurt, right, if I let the wrong guy come in, right? Stuff like that. When they have that breakthrough, when they're working with us and they realize, oh, I'm going to be okay. Right? They actually have the experience of going through something challenging and coming out the other side. They're like, oh, wow, that's different. I feel better now because I'm connected to my essential self. I realize I'm not going to be destroyed or abandoned by all men. Right? Because with the experience of one abandonment, that they can translate that in the beginning, they can translate that to meaning all men will abandon me. No one will ever love me, right? I'm not wanted by anyone. Even though they're not saying that in their conscious mind, they're like, that's bullshit, right? But their inner dialogue, that critical stuff, is really harsh. And so there's a lot of self-criticism as well that goes on, creating what is possible for them. So what we do is we help them break out of that and help them have other possibilities. I think there for you.
Right. I love that, because I think what is really beautiful about what you said is that it's the stories that we make up about what is or isn't possible. And when Tessa said, and I say this all the time, when I talk to clients on the phone. I'm like, because first of all, there's the urban legend that there's a facility where all the good men are, and that I know where they are, and Tessa knows where they are. Any dating coach has like key, because they're always like, where are the good men? Like, help me find the good men. I'm like, oh, well, I have the key. Okay. So let's say I bring you to the secret facility. Tessa and I open the door and we plop you right down in front of the most amazing guy, right? Like, the question is, will you be able to sustain that? Will you be able to be seen? Will you actually find a flaw? Will you not believe you're good enough? Will you somehow disrupt that because of these core beliefs, that because you're not showing up as your essential self? So I just really want people to hear that the sabotage effect is so powerful that it's not, and I just really it's not about the right guy. Like, I know people want to believe that it's like, there's no good guys in my town, at this party, on Match, on Bumble, wherever it is. But it's got to start, like, if you really, really want to unravel all these things Tessa's talking about, you have to start with, like, what we always say, the one common denominator in all your failed relationships, which is you. Like, if you think about like some of those breakthroughs that clients have, what are some of we call them high quality questions. What are some of the questions listeners can start asking themselves that will begin to take them through that journey that we call reveal, release, rejuvenate, like that reveal process? What are some questions they could ask themselves about their pasts that starts to unlock this is the key you really want to get, the facility inside yourself? What are some questions that they can start to ask themselves, that you ask our clients when you're working with them?
Well, when we're talking about reveal, we're talking about revealing what's been maybe holding them back, blocking them, or creating sabotage, right? Self-criticism and sabotage. So there could be a question. You could begin with something like, oh, how is my reaction connected to the past? How did I learn to react like this? Or how might I love myself even though I'm upset? Now that's a little bit like more advanced, right? Like, they might not be able to do both at first. So first they want to ask questions around getting to the truth of what is really going on. Is this actually happening now? Is this person actually doing something now that is actually upsetting me? And is my upset coming from the present, or is my upset something that happened when I was really little? How might it connect to something I learned when I was young?
Can I give you an example of that? Can I give you an example of that?
Absolutely.
So I was just talking to someone in our campus. We met after class, so to speak. And she was saying, I feel so uncomfortable leaning in with these men, right, that I'm dating and I'm interacting with. I'm meeting them online, and I feel so uncomfortable, like, responding. Like, she keeps blowing off answering them, right? Like, whether it's in her inbox for her online profile or whether they're texting her, she's just like, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. Anyway, and we got really into it. And I'm sharing this because I think it's so profound, and it's deep, and then it's not deep. So one of the things that she realized is there's this part of her, right? Like, we call it a little who, like a childhood part of her. She learned all these rules about what women do and don't do, right? And like, her mother taught her, like, you don't initiate, you wait back, like, it's too masculine. You have to, like, be quiet and meek, right? Like, men like quiet women. And so I was like, well, where do you think your mom learned that? She was like, well, when she grew up. And I was like, so what year was that? She's like, 1930. I'm like, well, what year is it now? 2022. I'm like, I feel like that's almost 100 years.
Exactly. It is.
It is, right? It's like almost 100 years. And I said, and then we talked about work, and I said, you still using a fax machine? She was like, oh, like every once in a while at work, someone was like, can I fax this to you? And I literally am like, what? I was like, this is it, right? Like on one level, you're like, do you understand this? Like women are quiet is something that was passed on you from literally 1930, that you're feeling like there is something wrong with you, that you don't get to speak up, that you don't get to have a voice, that you don't get to respond to someone when they ask you a question, or you shouldn't follow up because of what you learned for so long, right? And so I really wanted to use that example of what Tessa's talking about, because that practical application is like, I just keep not responding to people. I just don't know what to say. I don't want to get rejected. You know, I don't really know if I want to meet him. And if you trace that back, right, to like, it's a rule that my mom learned in 1930. And then it comes from like this role that women shouldn't speak. And then we swing back around and she's like, oh my God, I didn't use my voice in my marriage either. Like, oh shit, this is a deeper issue. How do you respond to that? What comes up for you when I tell that story, Tessa?
Well, I love that story, and it's a very common one, right?
Yep.
We know that. There are all these beliefs around how a woman is supposed to be, and if she's strong, she's going to not attract guys, but she doesn't want to be feminine. She wants to be feminine, but she doesn't want to be weak. Right. So there's a misunderstanding of what all of that is. What really jumped out to me, so when we were talking about the question, like the bottom line question is, where did I learn that? Because it often is coming from 50, 100 years ago. It could even be older than that. Right? We've got conditioning from culture, from society, from packs of women who hang out and talk to one another. Oh, you need to do it this way and that way. And all of that information is coming from people who are in failed relationships.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So there's this big curve. So there's this breaking away from the conditioning, the patterning, through asking questions like, where did I learn that? Like, what else could be possible here? And also learning to express. And I love that in this example, the woman was like, oh yeah, I didn't use my voice. I didn't do this, that, or the other. So using your voice, expressing your voice is also directly connected to your essential self, right? Saying what you need, and having a need doesn't mean you're bad or you're wrong or you're not enough. So there's a marriage of the essential self with the adult woman that needs to come together to be able to show up in a relationship healthfully and maturely, right? To be able to nurture a relationship and have real intimacy. Because if a woman isn't able to do that, if she's not able to come into her adult self, then she's going to be constantly hurt, rejected, feeling like she's weak in the relationship, right? Because she's in her child, she's still needing approval. So that getting more and more into the essential self will help with that a lot. And then learning how to express that voice.
I love that. By the way, whenever you're listening to this, we have a 3-day transformational virtual event called Ignite Your Life, where we walk you through this process, reveal, release, rejuvenate. So if you're curious about it, enrolling, getting on the wait list, it's IYLVIP.com, where you can work with me and Tessa. But I just wanted to talk about that because people are like, oh, wow, this is amazing, right? Like, this is some deep shit. These are questions I haven't asked myself. So then we talk about like the release piece. And when we talk about releasing, and this is the other thing, I think, when we connect it to essential self. So when we're talking about release, we're like, okay, so there's this soul part of me that's like pure and unpatterned. And then there are all these things that I learn and these rules that sort of unstitch me from my soul, right? Like I get disconnected from my soul. And so I need to release those things so I can come back into like alignment, into resonance. So we always talk about rewiring neural pathways and using somatic work or experiences versus like having our clients just like, read about it in a worksheet or, watch a webinar, or read a book. And you've been trained in so many different methodologies that are all somatic and experiential. And you and I just freaking love to create us some experiences. Why does experience create an actual rewiring? And how do you know that that's different than just like an aha?
That's a great question. So very juicy. Let's see where I want to go with this.
I
know. So if we're just trying to make a change from our brain. That's literally just one level of things. And it can't get very far because the brain is going to constantly also keep going back to the old wiring. It's going to be interrupting the new information with all the limiting beliefs and the things that are in the way. So the release is really important so that you can actually reprogram. It's like rebooting a computer. You can't just have a new software suddenly. Part of a new software requires that the old go away. And so it looks easy on a computer. It's not quite that simple for people, but we can create the same effect. And how we know it's different is we feel it. So there's a big education here around feeling all kinds of the whole range of human feelings. And so when we're rewiring, we're going through the brain, we're going through the emotional being, and we're going through the physiology. So there must be a felt sense of the change for it to actually be creating new neural pathways. That's the really distilled down version.
Okay, so I'm going to break it down even to the next level so people understand. How do you explain or articulate a felt sense? What does that mean? There has to be a felt sense.
There needs to be an awareness of the energy that is showing up in your body. Now, not always just the physical body, but it might be just an overall energy in what some people might call an aura. But the best way to work with it is through the physical body. There are literally experiences when you start to have a memory. I was just sharing this with clients the other day. When you start to have a memory of something that happened in the past, let's pick something not fun. It was super dramatic. It was maybe a roller coaster ride, right? You start to think about that roller coaster ride and you're like, oh my God, it was so amazing. And you really start to think about it. You'll actually feel the same way in your body that you did back then.
I love
because
that.
The body,
that example.
Yeah, isn't that cool? So it's cool in a lot of ways. And it's part of what makes storytelling fun, healthy storytelling fun, because we're able to transmit that energy almost. And everybody gets excited. We tell the story about the roller coaster. And, oh my God, it was like this. And then we went down this big thing really fast. And I thought my stomach, my whole body was going to fly out of the seat. And we start to create that just through the telling of it, the actual felt sense that happened in the past. The body does not know time. So that is a premise, or at least to our greater understanding at this point in our development. So the way we work with this, we can access feelings from the past and know whether we've healed it or not. We can access a memory and know if it, and recognize if it's showing up in our body now. And if it is, we can do something about it. We can love it. We can acknowledge it. We can work with it then, and then we can help it to release. Because as long as it's holding on to that energy, the roller coaster ride may be fine. We don't care. That's great. That was a great memory. But then there are other ones that aren't great, right? When he left me and he slammed the door and I was shaking.
Yeah.
Or he pounded on the wall, right? He had a temper and he pounded on the wall, whatever it is. And then we remember that, and that memory gets locked in us almost like it's part of our blueprint. So we want to be able to recognize it for what it is and then give ourselves a new blueprint. And we do that with the release of the old feeling, the old sensations, and the embodiment of the essential self, which is loving and kind and compassion. And then we have a different memory to draw from.
I love that. Was such a good explanation. Damn, you're good. And that's really what we're doing. And that's why, people will say that we're their last stop, because we're doing that experiential work. And so I think when I was a nursery school teacher, people were talking about like whole language learning, meaning like that you were learning through like textbooks, you were learning through observation, you were learning through writing, you were learning through having experiences. And it was like you're looking at this whole self. And so when I was a teacher for children, like that really was what made the classroom, right? Because they were having experiences that were creating the education, not just reading about it. And that's the kind of our philosophy on our campus is, right? Like, we want to give your whole self ways to change and learn and adapt and release and reveal so that the experience of it actually rewires your brain so that when you are in a new setting or you're in the same setting, it feels different because you have these new neural pathways. And that's really a game changer because white knuckling it or trying to convince yourself or turning over your phone or deleting him or blocking him. Girl, you're just going to like get the number back or send him a DM. Like all that stuff does not really work. Okay. Before we wrap up, I mean, Tessa, I could talk to you for hours, but the third part of our process that we teach at Ignite Your Life, and it's kind of like the foundation, is this idea of rejuvenating. And again, this came from the work that you and I did together way back where we saw this gap, which is like, okay, you can reveal the patterns, you can have a somatic experience, you can release them, but then you get plopped back in that same setting. And if you haven't learned new skills or you don't have new tools or your essential self doesn't know what's appropriate because it was never modeled or taught or it just feels uncomfortable, you're going to ultimately default back to old ways, right? It's very likely that you'll continue to struggle between your essential self and your default self. So talk to me about like, what's a great example of where somebody was going through reveal release and then we taught them something as part of like rejuvenation and they had a different kind of experience, like the whole thing felt completely different.
What's coming to my mind is the new like a new identity installation, right? Like realizing that they could be completely different. And I've had one of my clients, our clients, it was like night and day. So she was doing a lot of reveal, a lot of release, a very studious person, wonderful client to work with. But there was like this missing on the other side. Like there were no possibilities. It was still, so her brain would still have to be searching for like, well, what is possible? Well, it must just be the same thing. And it's only supposed to be a little bit better. Like it was flat. It had nowhere to grow into and accessing levels of joy were really hard for this person. And then we did this process with her where she just chose like these outrageous parts of her essential self to explore with and experiment with, right? Really big, like a big personality. And when she got into the feeling of that, it was exciting. She was like, oh, this is fun. Oh my gosh. I mean, I can have this, like this could be part of my essential self. And she literally realized through the process that part of her was living full out and super loving and compassionate and all these things. And she was, oh my gosh, that's like beautiful and wonderful. Suddenly her hope came alive and her freedom and her belief, like it was like a whole bunch of things came into alignment because she then believed, oh my gosh, this is how I could be feeling most of the time. And this is how I could be showing up in my relationship. And it changes everything because now it's not like just looking at the rules, like what's he doing? What's he saying? What do I need to say? What's got to happen next? What boundary do I need to set on all those like just tense things? It was like, wait a second, I'm just going to be myself and say, this is what I need, dude.
Right.
I need some. And she could even laugh about it. And it was no big deal. It was easier to do the courageous things she needed to do because she believed and trusted in this new found or remembered part of who she really is.
I love that. And that's kind of like the reveal. I don't know what the Latin is, reveal, release, rejuvenate. But I think when you say remember, and that's really it. It's like remembering who we are at our soul level and then ultimately accessing that part of us and all those pieces of the process to be more expressed as who we really are in all that we do. And I've heard like stories of some of the clients you work with, like even on, one or two, like the first or second phone call, like a guy, like interrupting a guy politely and sweetly when he's just going on and being like, hey, do you want to ask me any questions? Or, like these little things that people are just on the phone on calls like this for dates. And they're just like rolling their eyes in either in real time or like to themselves being like, oh, when's this over? He's just another guy who doesn't care. And what I love about like this example and what you're talking about is that our clients are like, hey, like, hello, like, I know you're in a coma maybe, but do you want to ask me a question? Playfully, right? Or asking the follow-up question, but not doing it from a place of trepidation or like fear of rejection, but from this place of authenticity. And then being like, oh my God, I didn't die. Oh my God. He loved being like awakened out of that, like numbing, blathering that he was doing out of his own nervous reaction. Or, actually he wasn't my person because I didn't like the way he responded to my, my gentle, playful like request. And I think, and those, if you look at this whole picture, it's the details, those little micro moments where we get to show up as our essential self, change the experience of dating. They change the results we get, but most important, it changes how we feel in our life, which is that state of, feeling resonant, aligned, peace, joy, bliss. So
yes, and especially peace in ourselves, Marni.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. That's what these ladies are really wanting to go, oh yeah, I really have peace. I'm not defended. I'm not like blaming myself. I'm not still pissed off. I just know that what I did was in resonance and it feels really good.
I love that. The work that you do, the impact that you make on our beautiful campus is so profound, Tessa. And, I'm just so blessed that you're part of the mission. And ladies, again, if there's something that we said that resonates with you, check out IYLVIP.com or go to our website, datingwithdignity.com. You can learn more about Tessa and what she does and what we do. But the bottom line is, in all of this, don't forget to take personal responsibility for creating the life of your wildest dreams and life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Battista, and let's talk soon.